when we go back and forth between 2 or 3 bodies? Do we sometimes like second guess ourselves? Even look at myself, looking at photos on Monday, going, yeah, maybe I should have, went this way or that way, whatever it is. But again, you're trying to do your best. We like seeing muscle. We like seeing condition. You start awarding the best body on stage and kind of sometimes forget about the criteria. The criteria has always been there. Every, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, Jim would always put out the NPC would always put out an email after the Olympia saying all the top, you need to come down 20% in the amount of muscle that you're carrying because the division is getting too big. And then after that happened, that's when we went to women's physique, because we have a lot of figure girls, especially when you're training at that level over the years and you start out very young, you're going to put size on. So, you know what I mean? And muscle, to me, muscle is the most healthiest thing that any female can do, first of all, especially as you get older, you'll realize that. But so we wanted to create divisions so that those athletes didn't have to drop muscle. They had a division to work into. So you could start as a bikini competitor and at a young age and train. It wasn't like, and I have this conversation with a lot of athletes. I'm telling them, saying, you're a little bit too big for a bikini, but I want to go to figure. Then you either have to stop training or come back on the muscle. But that's the reason we had all the divisions, was so if you do enjoy, training, you have that ability to grow from one division to the next. We've done this over the years. We've always it goes a little bit too far, and then we kind of try to rein it in a little bit. And a lot of it does come, though, from the athletes. I tell athletes this all the time. Without an athlete on stage, we do not have an organization. They are the foundation of this organization. It has always been. So when you start getting, athletes talking to myself, talking to, some of the other officers, the administration, like Tyler and Jim and stuff, saying, oh, bikini's getting too big or figure's getting too big, whatever the issue is, or we're getting too hard. They listen. We listen to that. You know what I mean? And sometimes we have to say, okay, it's not the best body, even though we might like that body, it's not the best body for that division. We have to be conscious of that, because sometimes that best body just wows everybody. You know what I mean? But it could be a little bit too much for what we really want to keep the boundaries on that, division. And I think you're seeing that a lot, like I said, a lot, especially in the last couple of years, that we're really, as judges, trying to take a step back and say, okay, because I'll say this to judges at a show, they'll say to me, oh, I think somebody's too big or especially too big for a thing. Then I would say, we don't, and this is the other thing that I think sometimes athletes and trainers forget. There's not a different ideal at a regional show from a national show from a pro show. So like I'll say to somebody, just take, for instance, bikini, and I'll say, are they bigger? Now, whoever your current champion is, last year I would say, are they bigger than Jen? This year I'm going to say, are they bigger than Lorelai? If your answer is no, then they're just that good at that local show. They're not too big. But the same thing too, I'll get somebody and I'll say, are they harder than Sarah in women's physique? And if they go, well, yeah, then they're too hard for women's physique. That's I always tell trainers and athletes, that top 5 at the Arnolds or at the Olympia, that's the standard. You know what I mean? And so you, like with Sid, you don't need to be bigger than Sid. You don't need to be harder than Sid. The same thing with Andrea. You know what I mean? That, that should give you a clue on where you want to take your physique for that division. I don't know if that helped a little bit or.
That was actually very good. And that illuminated a lot, because I knew some of this because I do, study and follow. And since I became a pro in 2019, bodybuilding is set up because you can set the standard based off of what your body allows you to do or what you want your body to look like. And all you have to do is just stack it up amongst who you're competing against and say, okay, does my body realistically fit into that category, or getting that feedback? And I think that is a good universal message.
Sometimes, you have to be realistic. Okay. This is not a team sport. This is an individual sport. It's you going to the gym, you knowing what you want your body to look like, but it's really all about just making your body better for yourself. And sometimes, no matter how hard you work and how much you do, you're not going to be on the Olympia stage, but are you still better than when you started? And if that answer is yes, then you're already a winner. When you get to that level, whatever sport it is, there's a genetic component involved in it. Sometimes I'll say to an athlete, we'll be talking and they'll say, but I don't know what else to do. And I always say, like me, you need to get a new set of parents in your next life. Because you do, well, because you do. At that level, genetics does come into play.
And that to me is the biggest takeaway. That's worth gold. Stops being well, what if I try this or what if I try that, and trying to be, to resist. And it's more of just going with the flow of it. And I think thank you for touching on that. So
but don't get me wrong. I mean, the thing is, by lifting weights and adding muscle to certain parts of your body, you have that opportunity though to create an illusion that wouldn't be there without the weight training, without going to, to the gym. When you get to that top, to the Olympia, you're going to go against athletes in very good condition with a lot more genetics maybe. And somebody already said this to me one time before. I always think a great trainer though, a good trainer is someone that is honest with the athlete. Being realistic as a trainer and being realistic with yourself is very important. But can this sport benefit everybody? Absolutely. Because it's going to make you healthier and it's going to make your self-confidence and it's going to make yourself better than anything else you can do out there. And I firmly believe that.
I agree with you on that. Definitely. And important point about trainers and coaches giving their athletes realistic expectations. I've seen it and I've heard stories where a trainer will say one thing to an athlete and the results might be in their favor. Then another scenario where the trainer may give their own intended advice, and then it doesn't go the way that it should go, because it's got to be realistic and there are things that you can work toward. I also want to drive home the message of sometimes easy does it. Take your time. There's no I've had athletes come to me and they're like, why did you take so long? I haven't competed since the last Olympia in 22. Well, regroup, go at your own pace, find your own groove. Sometimes when you're too busy trying to chase your own shadow or other people's, you don't get a chance to go and do that extra work, that homework. And when you take that time and you go, you know what, the stage will always be there. I want to make sure the next time I get on that stage, that is my undeniable best. If you really love what you're doing and you have the right people telling you, giving you realistic expectations, it can be a fun process.
And I'm a big one on this because obviously everyone out there knows I love the sport. I love our organization, but you also have to be realistic. Life happens. Do not miss living, going to school, and don't giving up your career, because I know athletes at the top that have both.
As someone that has taken the time to go in and have that introspection, what would you say now, as someone who has had their own version of success, because we can all define success in different ways and forms? How do you define success for you now?
Number one is that you're happy with your own progress, that you're happy with the work you put into it. This sport is not measured like so many other sports. Of course, there's some criteria, but still at the end of the day, it's very subjective. We know also through the years that the judges' opinions of what they wanted has changed, so the sport is evolving like any other sport. Sometimes, they want bigger. Sometimes they say, oh, we've had the 20% rule downsizing at some point. Where they say, oh, we want this smaller now, and we want this and we want that. So you cannot base your happiness or your confidence on what placing a judge will give you. Of course, I would have liked to win the Olympia. I compete to win. It's a champion's mindset. I'm a champion. I want to win every single time. But do I throw the trophy on stage or go home and cry for 3 weeks? No, I don't. I'm like, okay, I went to celebrate. And it wasn't because I was happy with my fourth, because I would have liked to place higher. I was celebrating my performance, my work that I put into it, my coach's work, my trainer Gina's work. It was like I started training with Gina like 8 months out of the show. I went to Brazil on like a training camp, 8 months out, and all I did was like train, 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 eat, 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 and follow my program. And so why would I not celebrate that had come into fruition, and then that I had finished it? You say, what's the measure of success? No, it's not just the placing. The success is like, you got there, and I looked the best for me, the look I wanted to bring. That the judges thought I needed still some improvements to get there. Okay, that's constructive criticism, and I welcome it. If I want to win, I also got to listen to, okay, what is it they want to see more from me?
Success, sure. People equate it to how many medals, how many trophies, how you place. But to me, it has to be more than that. You have to be able to be like, okay, I want to win. This feels good when you do, but this also feels good when you finished, when you completed, when you actually put forth a goal and set to finish it no matter what the outcome. Sometimes it may seem a little bit messy, but sometimes that's the fun in it, because then you're still in a flow. You still get to figure it out. If everything was always absolute, then you would have nothing really to work for. I think that's a great takeaway to celebrate. And when you were training, especially for all that time in Brazil, that arduous schedule, that day in, that day out, how did you balance your mental and your emotional health? Did you have anything that you set aside as far as time, or there any little hacks that you can share with the channel that you did for yourself while you were really in the trenches working hard?
It's really mindset. Working with your mindset as you as you progress into prep. I mean, mindset is something not just prep, but year round. But you know, the more you're challenged, and the more you feel like you're in the trenches, and you have to really like push everything you got, you know, to hang in there, because we all get to a point where it's like really hard. You don't want to do this anymore. Your body is exhausted. Your joints hurt. You're tired. You're hungry. You're dragging. Tired. It's like a tired sandwich. It's tired on top of tired on top of tired. There comes a time, like I would say for me, around 6 weeks out, is really not fun anymore. It's important to find down to that rooted passion, you know, that you're like, well, I'm doing this because, you know, I love this. Us human beings, we always find something to be unhappy about. If we have too much energy is wrong. If we have too little energy is wrong.
Ain't that the
We
truth?
always we always think we're not in shape enough, and we're always chasing and appreciation, being grateful. That's something that's very, very powerful. You know, when you have some things happen, like especially like serious injuries, that's tough. I thought when I ripped 2 tendon off my shoulder, I thought, shit, I'm done. I went through a really like tough time for a while and was really depressed. But you know, it made me stronger. And now I'm just like, I'm grateful for that. It's a hobby, it's a passion, it's something we chose because of the love of it. And you should never forget that. Having faith in yourself. I was grateful every day that I was able to do this prep, and that I was healthy, that I was able to lift heavy, and I was getting stronger and stronger, and that my body was responding. And I was just finding every little thing to be grateful for.
Those are the hacks: checking in with yourself, doing the mental inventory, practicing
That's
self-compassion, practicing self-sovereignty.
No one can do it for you.
Right.
No
If you
one.
want to raise your vibration, you have to elevate yourself. But what I did notice is that you did do a lot of check-ins with yourself, and that's actually very important. Asking yourself those tough questions sometimes when it is the hardest, that's when you usually get the answer of, where should I move forward from this? What is this pain point telling me? Why do I feel uncomfortable? Let's check in, let's dive in, let's listen to myself, and then whatever comes out, then we can move forward, move past it, and then move on to the next goal.
You have to focus on your objective and to do all possible and impossible in yourself to go to that objective.
Take what might seem impossible and take what you already know to be possible and put
Yes.
that together. Can you walk us through the journey from the 2021 time to 2024?
Every journey, every day, I do the same. I do the same train, the same routine, the same meal prep. It's not different from 2021 to 2024. Maybe just the mind, just my wanted to be on stage in this year because I want with all my body to be in that stage. And in the 2021, I never say if if I will go on stage because then in 2021, I never know if I was a woman bodybuilding because of that was my first time of in a show of woman bodybuilding, and in that first time I win. So it was all fast. First show woman bodybuilding, first qualification of my first Olympia, and when I was there, I so excited. I don't know never what I can. What I could find in that place. So when I stay on my table with my target, I say, "Wow, what is this?" Instead, this time I know what I have to go to do, and this time was very impressive for me because I know what I have to do.
From the first one to this one, just getting used to it and getting more comfortable and getting more of a flow. And that comes with time, and that's important message too, that
Yeah.
Some people may go, oh, first time it just, but then sometimes for some of us, you take a little bit longer to get more of a flow. Can you talk about your team, who you have supporting you, who helped you to get to the stage this year, the importance for you of the support system that you have?
Support me, my coach. He take me, bring out me the better version of me every time.
So was your coach with you at the Olympia?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
and he's in Italy?
He's my partner in the work because we have together a gym. He's my coach from 8 years.
How important has it been to you to keep someone consistent? It's rare to find people that can sustain or stay and be supportive for a long period of time, and to have someone for 8 years.
Yes, because he know all of me, all of my body, all better than how I can feel of myself.
Does your coach have a long history too in background in bodybuilding?
Yes, he is an athlete too, but in the past, not now. Time he was very happy because we do the history of bodybuilding in Italy. Because never an Italian take the 5th place at the Olympia.
So what does that mean for you to go from someone telling you, don't do it, you'll regret it, now first woman bodybuilder?
First woman, first Italian in all.
First, okay, correction here. First ever Italian. Okay, across the board. That's a big deal.
Trust me, I don't know how it mean effective. Because for me, when I started this bodybuilding, I ever was want to be an important people in this sector.
Yes, and to represent for women in sports all over the world. So I want to take it to when you discussed about femininity and bodybuilding and your version. You said a feminine body doesn't necessarily have to look like mine. The importance of that was to tell everyone that you have your own version. When you were talking about your approaches, to me, I saw a mixture of being able to be adaptable, having flow, and having strategy. I think that is something for many of us to take away, whether we're approaching something as strategic as bodybuilding or any other endeavor. You know, again, that first mode for some of us is it's got to be this way, and we got to, we got
always been like this, right?
Right. You got to
Yeah.
live and die by the structure, live and die by this code, right? Now knowing that it doesn't have to be so black and white, there can be a little gray, there can be a little color, and sometimes you get a better picture, better outcome.
Another thing that happened, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't want to forget about it because I'm still like, I can't believe I did that. You know, we were picking the shows. I had already planned a cruise for my son for his high school graduation. And I honestly wasn't going to compete this year. In my mind, I felt like I needed more time to grow and wasn't going to give myself enough time. But he was like, you don't need that much time. You're good, you know? So I said, okay, well, I'll do a show if we can pick one that allows me to still go on this cruise. I was expecting him to go, you're not going to go on a cruise during your prep. I went on a 5-day cruise and I stayed I mean, you can't bring your food, but I, for the most part, stayed on a plan. We treated it like a deload week. So I did training at the ship gym, but it was 45-minute training session with what they had, just to keep the muscles full. But yeah, I came back leaner and I came back rested and looking better. He was like, this cruise actually did you a lot of good. I think, people forget that bodybuilding's a mental game too. And how much your mental affects your physical. Being under stress all the time, with my kids and my job and, staying up late to train and things that I put my body through, to really step back and like decompress for 5 days just did wonders to get this prep like really going. Don't get yourself so locked in all the time that it's got to be one way. You have to trust in who you have guiding your ship. You have to do your due diligence. It worked out real well.
What were some of your go-tos besides taking cruises, right? What were when you didn't have the cruise, right? When you couldn't go and take your little getaway, how did Sherry keep her calm?
I'm really kind of boring. I'm very limited on time. I don't have a lot of go-tos. I did try to prioritize some time with my family a little bit more because I knew my son was graduating high school and going off to college, making sure that I was spending more time with my family than I, probably had in the past. Just trying to stay a little bit more relaxed this year. Previously, I was constantly trying to prove that I could be a good bodybuilder, try to prove that I could make it, and doing everything I could in my power to be successful. I don't do anything without the intent of being successful. The boss said to me, you're already a legend. You're already a top bodybuilder. It made me feel calm in the fact that I didn't have to prove anything to anybody anymore. I still wanted to do my best. I had a confidence in myself that I don't normally have or hadn't had in the past because I have finally, won multiple pro shows. I have made it to the Olympia. I was qualified, now twice. It's not just a fluke. It wasn't by accident. My self-worth has been validated a little bit for me.
I was actually going to ask what happens. Let's play devil's advocate. But having gone through what you've gone through, still give the wisdom of the fact that you have. But what would be your positive response or a different response to someone who maybe hasn't gone and done multiple Olympian shows, but they're still wrestling with that feeling of being enough? They need something outside to validate them. What would you say to that person that may or may not have gone that specific route that you have, and they are a bodybuilder?
To sit here and say, don't worry about what other people think and do this for you, because I've been through it and I had some success. Don't get me wrong. I do think that you need to push yourself and stay focused. And sometimes there isn't a lot of balance in your life. If you want to be successful and you want to excel and be at the top of anything, there's not going to be a lot of balance sometimes. But what I've realized now, especially this year, is that you can do everything in your power to come back better than the year prior, which I did. I showed up at this Olympia better than I was last year, but I placed worse. And that's because someone else didn't see the value in what I've done and the work that I put in. Someone else didn't see it. So you can't get caught up in your placings, because at fourth in the world, I wasn't the best me. At eighth in the world, I am the best me for right now. And that was because of my accomplishments and because of the work I put in. Just because a judge in front of me didn't see that doesn't take that away. And I think a lot of people get caught up in their placings and validating themselves through the placings. And it will either cause you to push, or it'll cause you to grow bitter and be mad and walk away from a sport that you initially loved and you enjoyed and you found passion for, and you're letting someone steal that from you by putting the importance in a placing. So I mean, that would just be my biggest thing, is because I wasn't always like this. If I didn't win and I didn't get first call outs, like, it was devastating to me. And I'm just, I just now realize that you can't validate yourself through someone else's eyes.
And that's a beautiful takeaway. That's a beautiful message. You can, like you said it best. You can show up not at your perceived best and that be rewarded or that be promoted, or in whatever context any of you out there want to put it in. But then there is the other end where you are showing up, you're ready to go. All the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted. You're looking and you're saying, this is the best me in this moment that I'm going to, and it doesn't. And you have to sit there and go, but to me, I'm successful because I know this is my best.
It's the only way you're going to enjoy this sport.
Yeah.
It really is. At the beginning of my journey, I had no expectations because I was starting out. So I loved training and I loved gym time, and I was always in a good mood, and there wasn't any pressure. I hadn't even become a pro, and I was just starting out as a pro, but never expected to win a pro show just yet, So even though you're working hard, you're just kind of enjoying the moment of everything.
Yeah.
And then you get that success and it's like, okay, well, now I've won a pro show. So now I've got to win every pro show, or try to win every pro show. Now I have to qualify for the Olympia again. I've already qualified. I have to do it again. So there's this weight on your chest that, for me at least, is starting to suck out the fun. It's starting to suck out the enjoyment of training, because I'm looking at myself going, is it enough? Is it enough? Am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to make this happen? Instead of just being calm, and just going, we're just going to show up and see where we fall.